it's Shaw from Scrap Secrets and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be making a Get Well shaker card using a few of the newest releases from Doodles Paper Playground, which makes sparkle blends. To start off, we're going to be making the background for the shaker card. I'm going to be using a stencil, and I believe this is from the Rabbit Hole Designs, and I am inking the stencil up on a piece of 65-pound white Recollections cardstock. It's cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and I'm using 4 different colors of Distress Oxide to ink up the background. You'll notice that I have a mat that I've attached my stencil to. This is a mat that I've had for a really long time, as well as the magnetic ruler that came with it. The little peg magnets, those are actually from another one. I have a large cutting mat that these ones came with. But anyway, I found it the other day when I was cleaning up the craft room because I'm reorganizing it and doing a couple things differently, and I will do a craft room tour just as an FYI a little later on once everything is cleaned up and reorganized. But I found this and I thought it would be a perfect way to hold the stencil into place. So I've inked up the first part of the stencil with some shaded lilac, and then I moved on to cracked pistachio. And once that's done, you'll notice that I didn't do a nice even blend on it. Some places have more ink than others. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to affect the technique. I'm going back and forth with the brushes on the middle part to get a nice blend on that. I'm going to take the stencil off, wash all of the pieces and the mat, and now I'm going to put the stencil back on, but scoot it down a little bit so that the pieces that we just inked up are actually covered by the stencil and the other spaces are actually in the open area because we are going to ink those up. This is a great way to extend the life of your stencils. We often think that you just use stencils in one way, but if you look at them a little bit differently, you can find different ways to stretch your supplies. I love doing this. I love looking at things and trying to figure out a different way to use it, and it gives a completely different look when it's finished. So the third color of Distress Oxide that I'm using is the Kitsch Flamingo. And again, with this side, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to put some pressure, more pressure in certain areas, less pressure in others, and there's really no rhyme or reason to it. It just was how much ink I had on the brush and how hard I decided to press. Sometimes it was harder than others. So once the Kitsch Flamingo is done, we're going to go back in with Peacock Feathers, ink up that remaining part, and then I'm going to do the same thing, go back over that middle line and make sure that the two colors blend. So by using this ruler, you can see here, it's really easy and helps me, helps have a place for my hand to hold the paper down to, so you don't get fingerprints on there. So it's been really great. I do love this, and I don't know why I've had this for so long and really have never used it. And anyway, I am going to take that stencil off and look at that background. Isn't that so cool? And people, if you didn't see the video, people are probably like, how did you do that? So I love it. I think it makes a really cool background. So for the first of several sparkle blends, I am going to use Bundle of Joy. So this has some pinks and purples in it. The pink is a little bit brighter than the pink that is the Kitsch Flamingo. And then the purple is has a little bit of a blue to it. It might actually be a little blue, but in there, it looks really good. And next I'm going to use Hoppy Easter because there's some green in there. I'm going to go through and just pick out some of the green pieces. I tried my best to pick out colors that went with these. And the funny thing was, I actually wasn't going to do this for my guest design team submission for this week. I was actually going to do something different. I was going to use some other blends, and then I looked at my newest blends because those are the ones that I need to use for the design team. And I was like, ooh, these could actually work. So I was pretty excited about that. So we're going to do the sandwich bag technique. I love doing shaker cards like this because pretty much everybody has sandwich bags lying around. So you'll see that I kind of, instead of pushing the cardstock down to the bottom like I've done before, I've left a little bit of room at the bottom and folded it over, because sometimes I felt like when I was pressing it up against the edges, there was a little seam on the side, and I felt like it looked weird on one edge. So I tried this and I think it works a little bit better. So you'll see I did the 3 sides. I glued them down with my ATG. I cut off some of the excess. And then we're going to leave that flap at the top open. I cut off the sealer part of the bag because if you leave that on, unless you put a lot of foam tape on the back of it, you are going to have one section that is higher up than the others. It'll have like a bump on the back of it. And I was sending this to a friend who was having surgery, so I knew that I wanted to make it as flat as possible. So I'm shaking the pieces around in there, and I think I need to add a little bit more. So I went back and I found the beam mine, and there are some purple and blue pieces in this. So I went back in and added some of the pieces from there. That's the great thing about sparkle blends. Just because the blend that you pick might be a specific color palette, you can mix and match them to make it be what you want to be. So this is one of the favorite things. Sometimes I will straight up use the blend that Amber mixes, and then other times I will mix blends together to get a custom one. So I love having those options. Once I added those pieces in there, I thought that I needed a little bit more, so I picked up another sparkle blends, and this one is called Leprechaun's Gold. I thought it needed a little bit more green in there, so I'm going back in and picking out some of the green pieces. So you see, you wouldn't think that Leprechaun's Gold blend would be able to go into this, but again, picking out the pieces that you need from that set really, really extends the life of your sparkle blend. So I feel like this is what this video is about, extending the life of the products that you have. So you can see I got a little gold pieces in there, putting them back in and then adding them to the mix that's already in there and shaking it up. And I think that looks really good. So I think that I'm done. And I was trying to figure out how to seal it up. I didn't know if I was going to tuck that piece in and then glue the outer flap down. And I decided, nope, I'm just going to put some ATG on the top of it. I am going to glue the one layer down, the layers over top of each other, and then I'm going to cut off the corners just to try to reduce some of that bulk. I'm also going to be adding another strip of ATG to make sure that top flap is glued down, and shake it, make sure everything is shaking. There are some larger pieces in there, and sometimes it's a little bit of a tighter fit, so you may have to break up the pieces. You just have to kind of get your finger under the piece and just keep moving it. So now I'm putting ATG on the card front because sometimes it is difficult to put the ATG on the plastic. Sometimes it just doesn't want to stick to the plastic. It's easier to do it on the card base. So I'm doing an A2 side folding card. It's a piece of Pink Recollection 65-pound cardstock. I had already stamped these images and colored them out the other day, and it just so happens that they worked perfectly with this card. So didn't even think about it when I was picking out distressed oxide colors for this. Wasn't even planning on having these images go on this card. I had a totally different plan in mind. And this sentiment is being stamped in MFT Grapesicle ink, and it's from that same stamp set, Feel Better from MFT. This is an older stamp set. I don't know if it's available still. And ironically, we actually are going to be using another stamp set from MFT that's actually called Feel Better as well, which is a newer stamp set, and I believe that one is still available. So I'm just picking my images, trying to figure out where I'm going to glue them down, because normally I don't decorate the inside of my card. I would put these on the front, but since it was a shaker card, I wanted to leave the front a little bit plain, or so I thought. I do go back and add some stuff. I'm using my Be Creative glue from Honeybee Stamps to glue these images down, gluing them right to the card base because, again, I'm going to be mailing this, so I didn't want to add more bulk because the front already has a little bit of dimension. And I'm using those 2 little peg magnet pieces to make sure that the things are in place. So I thought the front was a little bit plain, so I decided to use that same Grapesicle ink to stamp a sentiment from this other stamp set from MFT called Feel Better. So this one I just recently got, so I'm pretty sure this one is still available. And it's really cute images of all different kinds of animals and get well and feeling better or feel better sentiments. So I thought this was really, really cute. And I also had colored that bowl out, which matched perfectly with the color palette. So I decided to use 3 on the inside and 1 on the outside of the images that I had colored the other night. And I'm also going to go around the edges. I started off with some of that shaded lilac, and it wasn't really standing out. So I went back in with another color. I believe it was the peacock feathers, and it just made it look a little bit, just added a little bit of something to it. I don't know that I loved it. I probably would have left it off, but it did actually, because it was a teal color, it gave it a little bit of a purplish tint. So now I'm trying to figure out where I want the sentiment as well as the bowl to go, and I was going back and forth on placement, and I just decided just put it on the card. So I am taking some of the small pop dots that I have, placing them on the back of the sentiment as well as on the back of the bowl, and putting that on the front of the card. And then that card is going to be done for the day. So that's how you can create your own custom shaker blends from Doodles Paper Playground. Just, go through the blends and look and see what pieces you can use that'll fit with your project, and also how to extend the life of your stencils and look at them differently. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below. Definitely leave a comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again real soon for another video. Bye!